Hi, welcome back to Infinity Coders. Today, let's look into how do you use an emulator to install your application. So this is use case where if you don't really have a real-time phone, but you want to test your application that you have developed through Android. So let's further look into it. So first, how do you create an emulator in Android Studio? So you can actually go to the device manager that is located on your right hand side. So here there's actually a plus button where you can actually create a new device. Then you have to go and choose a virtual device. So in the virtual device, you can actually take a look that there's a few options here. There's a phone, tablet, depending on which kind of application that you are targeted to run on. So when you are choosing any application, you are actually able to choose based on the size or resolution that it supports. So without some of the device will not have the Play Store support. So in this case, I'm just choosing maybe Pixel 4 and just click next. So in this UI here, you can literally choose which targeted Android OS that you want to run. Is it Android 15 or 14? And x86-64 is the 64-bit. If you do want to run it on a lower 32-bit, then you can choose for x86, go for a lower 32-bit, which is for Android 16, or you can also go for other images. So the ARM is usually you need to make sure your process and everything is running on ARM, and its ARM is very slow on current PC. So it's possible to not use ARM if you really have to check or you have to really run it on ARM, then you need a very high performance PC. So once you have done this, just choose one of it and click next. Then you can set your ABD name. What's your ABD name that you like to provide? Set the portrait or landscape orientation, and you can also set all the space that you actually require for the emulator. So the space, just to make sure it actually will take up your PC space since it's actually running on your local PC. And finally, then you hit finish, it will actually create a emulator. So to run it, actually you can just see a start button here. You can just actually go and click on the start, which will actually create the ABD and then will launch the application here. Now let's look into how do you launch an Android emulator not from the Android Studio. So let's say in this case, this Android Studio is already taken half of our view, and there's actually a coding area, and there's also a limited area to actually look into your modules. So in this case, we can actually launch an emulator from our SDK where it's being installed. So I'm just going into my SDK location. So usually, if you are following the standard way of installation, it should be almost the same place. See Android SDK, CD emulator. So now I'm just calling emulator exe. You should be able to find this exe file. And then from here, I'm trying to close the previous emulator that I've opened. So we'll go to device manager. Here we can actually take a look where what's my name, which is phone. So I'm just trying to give a phone the name of my emulator. And then at the back, you actually can write as a writable system. If you want to make your emulator as a writable version. So let's say if I put phone, sorry. So if I put phone, I need to provide ABD phone. So now what will happen is it will launch a new emulator, which is completely outside of the Android Studio. And this is a bit easy for us to drag and like move around, and yeah, so it's a bit more easier. So next, let me just go into some of the utils that in the emulator you can find. So the utils actually are these utils. So actually, if you see, there's no three dots here. But let's say if I launch maybe one of the application, this works almost the same. This is a center button. This is for me to clear up whatever activity that I have open. So this is the back button if I want to go back. So this is to rotate my device. So as you can see, if you rotate it, yeah, to make the orientation. And then this is for the zoom in functionality, right? This is for camera, and yeah, this is for the shutdown. So one of the useful tip is, let's say you're facing, uh, what do you call, you should only use a cold boot only when you need. Whole boot means that you will actually restart your entire process from the power up again. But if you use snapshot, what happens is it will actually where you will power down from where you currently are, and then you will power up directly to the location where you previously actually powered down at. So this is actually much more easier, and then you don't have to restart from a cold boot, right? So this will help you to process. So next, let's look into how do you actually run the Android application and then to run your application inside the emulator. So there's a run app button here. So you can actually go into the run app button, press on it, which will actually, you can actually see there's a Gradle build running. And then after a few, once it already compiled, you can just see there will be a AVD that is being yeah, it's actually launching on the device and installing on the device. So if you did mention that after successful, we need to directly launch the application during the application, it will directly launch the application. So here you can actually see there's a zoom, there's a hello that is created. Okay. So how about the other way of making the installation? The other way is for us to go into the place where we can actually do a drag and drop and then it will still work. So in this case, I'm just going into the location that, so you can see there's a starter application. So I'm just going to my app, build, just getting the output file, the APK file. So I have a debug here. So this is my debug APK. So this is my emulator. I'm just going to drag and drop the application. So this will manually install. If there's any errors, definitely we can actually view it at our console. So console, if you look at your terminal or your logcat, you should be able to see if there's any errors or of any installation or during the installation. So you should be able to see if there's any error prompted. If no, it will be successfully installed, but it will never launch for you directly. So we still have to go and manually launch it. Yeah, as we can see here, it will still launch. So that are the two ways of launching the emulator. So if you do like the content, do like, follow and subscribe.